All right. Newest episode of the podcast that's going to become the number one podcast in the world shortly. I got my friend Garrett here. Garrett is a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for at least a year now. We've played softball. We've been to each other's apartments to watch UFC. That's as much you can ask for a friendship, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's what I would say. Anyways, if it's all right, I'd like to ask Garrett if you could introduce yourself to the people watching, the 20 viewers that we're gonna have.
Yeah. My name's Garrett. I'm a 21-year-old male, born and raised in the Midwest, grew up in Oklahoma, kind of moved around, moved to Arizona, and then moved up to Utah here. Um, so right now I'm currently a student over at Utah Valley University. I'm going into my senior year. In the exercise science program. And yeah, uh, not a lot much else there.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted Garrett on this podcast is because one, Garrett's super cool. Two, he's a good guy, and also he's actually super driven and very accomplished. I would say in regards to to school and his work so far that he's done here in Utah. And I wanted to first dig into that. If you could I guess are there any lessons you've learned, I guess, living in different states that you would say that gave you an edge, I guess, coming out to Utah, where most people here in Utah
Ooh.
have just been here their whole life?
Yeah, I would definitely say, social skills would obviously be number one there. Just being able to, I guess, kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone. You know, talk to people you normally wouldn't talk to, do stuff you normally wouldn't do. Um, as far as, just kind of like branching out and exploring, I guess, kind of things you like. Because at the end of the day, just kind of having friends and people everywhere you go is it's huge. It makes things, way easier no matter what you're doing. So I would say that's a huge advantage from moving around as a kid. And then yeah, I mean, I guess just like a lot of with knowing a bunch of different people and talking with a bunch of different people, you get to be pretty well versed on a bunch of different subjects, which is cool because it's like I feel like I can really sit down with a pretty wide variety of people and just chop it up and have a normal conversation. So
Yeah, it definitely is super valuable, and that's interesting because I didn't know much about your background growing up. So me and Joseph, so Joseph's my brother for anyone who doesn't know. We moved around a fair amount in middle school and high school as well. I guess our whole life, but yeah, it does force you to either to choose to be super quiet, or if you understand the situation, you understand you need friends and you need to put yourself out there. But
yeah.
where did you get that mindset from initially? Was it when you were younger, or did it happen later when you were moving to college, or when did you get that mindset?
Um, I would say probably when I was, oh man, um, hold on, you're gonna hear a really loud train go by me. Uh, I'd say honestly, probably like middle school, high school. Just like you guys. I mean, I moved I lived in Oklahoma for 13 years. Moved, what was that? Seventh or eighth grade. Moved to Kansas. Junior year of high school. Moved to Phoenix, and then moved up here to Utah in the middle of college. Granted, the pandemic and everything was going on, but I would say definitely that middle school and high school, moving to Kansas and then moving from Kansas to Arizona. Um, Learning that I remember leaving Kansas, it was tough because it was like I made a bunch of friends and we'd only been there for 4 maybe 5 years at the time when I moved, and I was like, oh, this is tough. But after a while in Arizona, you kind of start to realize that hey, I can build these same friendships, I can build these valuable relationships that meant so much to me, just by talking to these people, going out, pushing myself to do different things. So I'd say definitely right around then.
Yeah. And I guess one observation I've made in like personally is a lot of people will assume that being personable and like and making friends is like a gift or something. It's like something you just do and have. And I guess in my case, it's something I had to choose to do. I had to choose to be that outgoing personality. And I think people tend to give too much credit to like to your gifts and talents and your nature, like, oh, that's just who that guy is, that's how he is, when really you have to kind of make yourself that person. Do you feel the same way, like that's a choice you made, not like a not just like a personality trait, it's like a thing you had to adopt?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was somebody who, as a kid when we go to family events and family dinners, like that was my if I had a family event planned like later on that week, it was all I looked forward to, coming up that week because it was like I get to socialize with different people I haven't seen in a while. I get to put myself in like a social setting that I'm not used to. And so like I just think that's such a undervalued aspect of people. And I think like you said, it's something that just goes really unnoticed. But at the end of the day, it's like it can be a really useful skill set, just being able to have that confidence to talk to, a random stranger you bump into. And
Yeah, I think one thing that gets in people's way is they are too insecure about what other people might think of them. And then you come to realize the more you talk to people is that everyone's too worried about themselves to worry about you. And so I've found personally that the most learning happens when you kind of stop thinking about yourself and you actually start looking at other people and observing them, because you can learn so much. And you realize like that the people who go out there and get things done, or make those connections and make friendships, are the people that do better, I think, in regards to development and all these things, which I wanted to ask you about. Well, so first of all, I don't know if I've ever heard the story, but how did you get out to Utah? And after that, I have another question is like you actually have a very like a sweet job, I think. Like I think you're very lucky to kind of stumble on the opportunity. So what was that whole process like of moving out to Utah and then getting this job, and like and I guess you're planning on staying here for a while, right?
yeah, so I'll finish out school here in Utah. So I'll be here for probably at least another year or so. Um, Basically, the story there was Lily and I, my fiance now, had been dating for 3 years, I want to say. Um, and pandemic hit, and it was just kind of we. I think we both. Everybody goes through rough spots where they, even the thing you do every day on a day to day basis can drive you nuts sometimes. And it was just one of those things where I I wasn't in a great place, and so I we split up for a little bit, and after kind of looking inwards at myself for a while and thinking about what I wanted and talking with her more, it's just a friend to friend thing. I realized how much there was there in that friendship and that relationship, and so she had moved up here to Utah. Um, while we were separated, and I thought, why not? Utah, it looks pretty fun, pretty inexpensive school, which is always nice. So just pulled the trigger kind of on a whim, bought a plane ticket, came up and visited her, and I just fell in love with the place. Um, and so then, yeah, I went home, I found a job within a month, put in my notice in Arizona, and packed up and moved into a little apartment up here. And yeah, been here ever since. So it's a little bit of a all over the place kind of story there, but yeah, it's led to some pretty sweet times. Um, as far as the job that I'm in right now, yeah, I love the sales job I'm in. If you would have told me when I was in Arizona that, hey, you're going to be doing sales in 3 years and you're going to love your job, like I would have been like, no way. Um, I originally moved up here, got a job at Target for the holidays. After that ended, I started working for Sony for the PlayStation 5 customer service team. And I got a dog at the same time, and they weren't gonna let me keep my phone on me or like go home and see my dog at lunch. So I was like, well, I need something more flexible. My roommate worked at a sales company, so I tried it out and I've just loved it ever since. It's a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah. So I love hearing these kinds of stories where things just happen to happen. And then I don't know if everyone like cares to dig deep into this, but when I hear stories like this, I like to wonder and this is something we haven't really talked about between me and you about your beliefs or consideration of like of outside presence of like maybe a higher power or anything. And if you believe in God, do you think that this whole thing happened because of God, or how did you think this came to be?
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree there. I mean, it was something where I I want to say I was just at work one morning and we were talking, and he made it. I somehow randomly had like 3 or 4 days in a row off, and I was like, that's super weird. That never happens. And I was talking to her, and she made a joke of like, oh, you should come up to Utah. And I was like, yeah, why not? And pulled the trigger. But I mean, it was definitely just like the odds of like it all lining up were just absolutely insane. So yeah, I would definitely say there was some influence there. I mean, me personally, like I definitely believe there's a God. Um, and what aspect, what form, all of that, I'm not 100% sure. But no, I definitely believe there was outside influence there for sure.
Yeah. So if you feel comfortable sharing, have you had any experiences in your life where you kind of were inclined to believe, I guess, in the existence of a God? Like where you kind of started to consider the possibility? Did you have any experiences like that?
Yeah. So growing up, both my parents were raised in different religions. So my mom was raised Lutheran, and my dad was raised Catholic. And they both had kind of, gone off and on, I guess, with church. Um, and then, they got together, and when they had kids, they had promised themselves that we want to make sure that we give our kids, um, I guess, a strong building block or a base there. They wanted to make sure that my sister and I, got to kind of uh, get a little bit of everything under our belt. So what we did there was, they would just take us around and, hey, we're gonna go to this church this weekend, and so I mean, we tried everything from Baptist to Lutheran to Catholic to, Methodist to really anything you can think of there. And so it was definitely something where it was a very explorative time, when we were both children, but still old enough where we could make the decision for ourselves. Um, and we both ended up agreeing that personally, for the both of us, we both preferred the Catholic Church um, out of all the ones we tried. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of like my background as far as religion goes there. I was, let's see, I first communion was in Catholic Church. I was confirmed in the Catholic Church. Um, and yeah, that's that's kind of that.
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting to me. Like the more I went out on a mission and came back, and the more I've been on my own and considering all the like the belief in God and everything that influences my decisions in life. I've come to understand something that, at least for myself, I don't know if it applies to other people, where what I thought was kind of like a testimony or a knowledge. It turns out to be that there's like a few singular facts that I know are true. One being I really know that God is real and he talks to me, I guess, through impressions of like maybe feelings or small moments where I don't know, there's just a connection there. But there actually are a lot of things that I just believe, and I only believe because it helps me to answer questions. And I think a lot of instances of religious belief are like your environment allows you to just to answer certain questions that you wouldn't have answers to otherwise. And I don't know if that makes sense. Where because I grew up in the church and the things that they taught me made sense, I was able to adopt that as if it were true. And when it comes down to it, I would like say maybe like 10% of what I like 10% of my life is like things that I know are true, and the rest of the 90% are just things I choose to believe. And as I get older and go along in life, certain things start to become more true, and then certain things actually become not true as I examine them and sift through all the different beliefs that I have. Uh, I don't know. So you mentioned that you definitely believe there is a God. What would be that next step for you in terms of like understanding that connection? What would be the next thing you would hope to understand better in terms of God and your relationship with Him?
Yeah. So I know it's like kind of the, I guess, generic or basic thing to say, but obviously just, you know, working, I don't want to say working, but growing that relationship there um, is definitely something that I personally have always struggled with and would love to be better with in the future. Um, I mean, it's just like, and not to, I guess, demean in any way or relate it to it, but just like, you know, you wake up every day and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go run X amount of miles today, or I'm going to go to the gym for, you know, this long today. And then, you know, you do it for a couple days and then you have a day and you say, well, man, you know, I've been pretty good for the last couple days. I think I'll just, you know, take today off, but I've been pretty good. And then I'll get back at it tomorrow. And then you kind of taper off. I feel like I've had a bunch of sections like that in my life where I've gotten, you know, very close to growing that relationship. I've done things to better that relationship. I've put effort in there, and then, um, you know, oftentimes more than not, I seem to just choose, you know, other things to occupy my time, whether that be school, whether that be work, family, whatever that is. But it is definitely something that I want to get better at in my free time here. As
Yeah.
far as just kind of like the things that I don't know, not necessarily that I want to say that I need to see, but like questions answered. I mean, obviously everybody wants to know, you know, what does I guess the future hold, not just, you know, here, present living, but in the afterlife as well. Um, and yeah, I mean, just like what do, like you said, a bunch of questions that I think can stress a lot of people out. Um, that can, you know, typically be answered through faith. So,
Hmm. Yeah. So one thing I'm super curious to know, because it seems as if different churches or different religions can have different answers. Um, what do you believe in regards to like
mhm.
salvation? I mean, a lot of people have the question of like, am I going to heaven? And is that something you feel like you understand, or is that something you feel like you would wish to understand better? Because I feel like everyone has a different answer to this question.
Yeah. So me personally, I understand a little better. Um, I'm kind of the I'm the type of person that gets like I need a plan, like what as I go to do stuff, I just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. Something that I would need. I don't necessarily feel like I feel like you could go to a Catholic church in Maine and you could go to a Catholic church in Arizona and you'll get two different answers. That's something that unfortunately I think the Catholic Church doesn't do a great job of. I mean, everybody kind of has their own idea of what salvation and, you know, what judgment day looks like. Um, and 100% something that I'm a not qualified to speak on my own opinion because I have no freaking clue whatsoever.
Hmm.
And be something that I definitely
So the connection's really bad and the audio is chopping, but I did hear. So you said that like you said that in one church you could have one answer and another church have a different answer in regards to that question. And I'm just gonna keep talking because like until the audio comes back.
research
But
into and seek more answers from.
I think we're almost there. We're almost there with the connection.
Yeah.
I was just gonna agree though that even in so the church that I go to, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we even have the belief that our understanding is more complete than other churches, and yet I still see people failing to answer the simple question of like what qualifies you to go to heaven. And so that led me to like I guess personally search for the answer because if other people didn't have the answer for me, I would have to find it myself. And this is something I wish more people would be able to, I guess, understand for themselves because I think the fear of not going to heaven is one of the worst fears, like of and also not knowing what you can do about it. So, anyways, I have the belief, and it's only because of what I read in the scriptures. I have the belief that anyone who I guess who believes in God or anyone who wants to be saved will be saved. And what people don't talk about enough is that salvation just is purely based on your faith in God. And that's just something that like I don't know, churches like ours, like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe so strongly in like in temples and like you have to do certain things to ensure that your family can be together forever. All these things, we gloss over the fact that salvation is promised to anyone who has faith in God. The thing though is that a lot of churches don't understand, and this is the thing about churches, they tell you what to believe, and sometimes it doesn't allow you for your own interpretation or your own understanding to form. But like I personally think salvation just comes to everyone who God like if God chooses to have mercy, then he will save you. And that's just anyone who's a good person. That's what I believe. But then there's a separate issue of getting into heaven, which is like a whole other thing. But that's just so I don't know if this makes sense. There's salvation, which is like being saved in this life. Jesus has said that he will come back to the earth, and at which point he'll destroy all the evil on the earth. And everyone who is chosen, I guess through the Spirit, will be saved. And those are the people, like I said, that believe in God and are good. After that, there's a period that no one seems to want to talk about, but it's like it's 1,000 years. It says in the Bible that we'll be on this earth, and then after that is when we kind of are admitted into God's presence. So, anyways, salvation is like a huge issue for most people, but most people just don't really understand, if that makes sense. I don't know if you heard what I said because the connection wasn't super great. Did you have any thoughts on that explanation I gave?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, am I? Can you hear me? Okay. Am I all good?
I can hear you good now. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. No, that is honestly something. So that's kind of the reason why, as a kid, I kind of went towards. Granted, I never got to go as a child to a Church of Latter Day Saint, but for myself, like going to the Catholic Church, seeing all they call sacraments would be all of the different things that you do through the church, to, like you said, almost make yourself worthy in essence in the eyes of God to get into heaven. So, baptism, first communion, confirmation, having your, just like, at the temple, just like at the Catholic Church, getting married in the church. And that's kind of why I chose it, because it's like, well, at least, like I said before, I mean, I'm kind of somebody who wants to have a plan. Like, at least I can kind of see these different like check marks that I, can devote myself to, and I can, push towards to then, you know, make me believe and hopefully God believe that I'm worthy, for heaven. So I totally agree, and that's actually something that I really, really like about the LDS Church.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just there's I couldn't even remember what verse it was, but I've read in the Bible where it says Paul is telling the people, like he writes letters to all these different cities to help maintain order, I guess, because he can't be there all at once in every city. But he tells them like to not dispute doctrine because like anyways, because of that issue is that like if you believe that salvation is only determined on like on one way of believing in God, then it turns into this commotion where everyone has to fight for like which belief is correct. But really, salvation is just given on a basis of mercy. It's just God's grace, and He chooses to give it to everyone who wants it. And then there's more past salvation. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that we spend too much time, I think, just like arguing about who's right and who's wrong and all these things, when really the whole world is in a pretty bad state right now, where there's people suffering and everywhere. And so, yeah, I think to calm all this down would be like, let's just define what exactly salvation is, and if we can all understand how we're saved, then we can stop fighting about it and start helping other people who maybe don't know about it yet. I don't know. That's just what I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
We have probably a few minutes left, and I'm curious to know, do you have any questions you want to ask me? Anything you're interested in knowing about me? And if not, we can just go ahead and end it. But just in case you did have questions.
No. No. I mean, I think this is. I love what you're doing with the platform. I'm interested to know, I guess, uh, future wise, potential wise, once it hits number one on the charts. I mean, so what? I guess what would be the end goal of this kind of venture that you're starting out on?
So with the podcast specifically, my goal is so I named it the podcast to end all podcasts. And that's the only reason why is because I believe we've gotten to a dangerous point now in our society where we're afraid to talk about certain things. And like I have the belief that everyone has things that they think that they will never say out loud because of fear of being judged or of like maybe even repercussions like losing their job or something like that.
Oh yeah,
So to be able to inspire people to actually have conversations about real things in their personal life would be my main goal with the podcast because I mean I love all podcasts that are super educational, like where you have experts talking about whatever topics they know about. Those are amazing because they enlighten people and help people improve their quality of life with like increased knowledge. When people turn to podcasts as a source of entertainment because they're not able to have conversations in real life, it's like their only way of having a conversation is by watching someone do it is kind of sad. And I would rather have people have courage to do this in their personal life.
yeah. No, I totally agree. That's why I said. I mean, I think you know what you're doing. I fully support it. I love the idea. I just yeah, I really like it, and and I'm definitely supporting you 100%, my guy.
For sure, thank you. And I actually just had another thought too. So when it comes to spirituality, I do have another motive, I guess. And this is why, like, not just for podcasting, this is why I'm doing like all everything, like the Instagram and the TikTok and all that stuff. Which, like, I'm not so fond of social media, but it is just a tool for me. But anyways, there's one verse that I've always loved, and I found this on my mission. This is in John chapter 6. He's talking about how he came from heaven and how his father sent him, and he says, "This is the Father's will, that all of which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but raise it all up again at the last day." And he says that everyone who believes on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So he says that everything that the Father has given him, he intends to lose none of it. He intends to raise it all up and like basically to glorify it at the last day. So if you think like what did God give to Jesus? He gave him everything, but most of all, he gave custody of us. And so Jesus makes it abundantly clear his goal and his intention is to not lose one single soul when it comes to saving us. And although it's up to every single person to decide, I feel like the majority, if not like 90% of people you will meet, are good people that have had certain circumstances happen. So we're all imperfect. But if we all could really choose if we would rather live forever or die, we would choose life. And so I want to at least get everyone to the point where they feel comfortable with their standing with God, where everyone feels as if they have been saved. And if that can happen through me or through anyone else, that's God's goal ultimately. So that's what I want is for people to realize that that Jesus intends to save all of us. He doesn't want to send us to hell. Hell is just a place prepared for evil people, not for people who make mistakes. So that's another goal of mine. But yeah, did you have any other questions past that?
No, I mean, really, that's all I had. I think that's a great goal to have. I think it's something that it's awesome. I'm a big proponent of goal setting because I think it, allows people to wake up and get stuff done, whether it be, in Utah or in the middle of nowhere. It's something that I think can drive people. And yeah, that's all the questions I had. But I just had to really say I really enjoyed that goal there.
Yeah. So I guess more specifically, I'm trying to just get on any platform, I want to get 10,000 followers just as a start, but we'll see how that goes. And it's not up to me really, but yeah. But anyways, Garrett, thank you so much. It was an amazing conversation. I'm sure whoever watches this will be inspired and will want to run through a brick wall. But yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, yeah, of course, no problem. Anytime, man.
Yeah, see you at the hot tubs.
All right, see ya.
Bye.